What's going on, people? What's up? It's the Black Quarterback Forum coming to you. Me and my man Smeeze.
What up? What up?
The Black Quarterback Forum YouTube channel, blackqbsineffect.com website, where we talk about the playing performance of black quarterbacks. Last week was Thanksgiving week, so we didn't make a full video. We had family stuff going on. You know, we ain't making millions of dollars with the studio fancy, and everybody can work for us. So, but anyway, we back at it to be happy to talk about. You see, I'm sporting an 8. Lamar Jackson, that's right. Number one seed at this point in the AFC. Y'all know we rock the Ravens here in Lamar. That's our favorite team here. So on TV, they got their favorite team. But anyway, we talk about all the black quarterbacks too. But so with that being said, we always kick it off with some news and notes about the NFL. We'll talk about top teams and stuff like that, and some other things, big games and the MVP. But as far as the top teams in the AFC, it's no mystery. We've been saying this for a while now. I see it as the Ravens, Chiefs, Jags, Dolphins. I mean, it just lines up with the division winners. And my man Smee's only got two teams in the AFC. So I think
I mean, my two teams, obviously, Ravens number one, Kansas City number two. Kansas City may have found a receiver there with Rice, the rookie, but it is a rookie. How much can he do? But
y'all rookie Ravens rookie doing
yeah, yeah, but
pretty good. Tank Dell doing pretty
statistically,
good.
Tank Dell too.
Yeah,
Tank Dell, yeah, they
yeah,
doing all right.
yeah. That's
The
all.
receivers is
Packers.
catching on quick. You got to. It ain't like old school football where give you 3 years. Like you got to hit the ground running, man, or it's gonna run past you. One of the two gonna happen. Something running. Either you at the building or you down the football field. One of the two. But yeah, those my two for the AFC. I mean the Miami, obviously they Miami. I mean to them, to me, you got to wait till the playoffs. Once the playoffs start, that weather starts, then we can kind of see what we really got going on there with Miami. The other team, Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, looking like he's regressing,
You
not
think
as
so?
good. I think so. Like
They
his
said he
numbers,
played good in this last game.
I mean, he played okay.
I didn't watch the whole game.
Like he played okay, but you know what I'm saying? I watched a good part of that game because it was a interesting matchup. You know what I mean? I feel like
I
that was for the number one seed in the South
South
for the
Division,
AFC.
right?
So that was an interesting and intriguing matchup. And to me, I feel like that could have made a strong point for something we're going to discuss on later in as far as the MVP race.
You know,
But that could have been a
right.
strong point for CJ right there.
A funny thing about that division, and I saw some graphic that CJ and him are gonna be is that gonna be duels between
Yeah,
those two? And
yeah.
CJ, how Trevor been in the league what 3 years?
3 years. Trevor touched on that too in his interview. He said, "I'm looking forward to it." He said, "Hey,
Okay,
we're
well
gonna have multiple matchups," and he was like,
okay,
"I'm looking forward."
he's still pretty young in his
Yeah,
career.
yeah. Like
Okay,
Trevor gonna be around for
yeah,
7.
he good, he good,
Stroud gonna be
yeah, he
around for
good,
10. So
he
you're
good.
looking at least
Yeah,
14,
he
15
he,
matchups with him.
they need him on the other side. He one of their great white hopes. Trust me, they want him to be real good. They want they want him to be good. Hey, the thing about the football and the quarterback, right? In my commentary, talks about how it's a lot of things got to happen for your team to win a Super Bowl. You got to have it starts with having a good quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the start.
it's a big piece. So,
Man, from there you got to get the O line, D line. You
right,
want to keep him up.
you
You want to
know,
put pressure on the other
so
quarterback.
and then we talk about those one quarterbacks having magical seasons. So, anyway, in the NFC, it's just as clear, right? The Eagles and Niners are the top two. And you could say the same thing that my man Smith is saying about the AFC. It was only two.
Yeah,
But I say the Cowboys and Lions. Although the Lions did lose to Jordan Love and the Packers. I
the
love that loss.
Lions. Every time I gave him hype with the loss to the Ravens. Like, oh, we're gonna learn from it. But every time I try to get so high on the Lions, they always end up go out and lose to the Bears, or they go out and it's always something that's like, ah, shit, that's the Lions. That's
Jared
what
Goff,
we thought.
excuse me, not touchdowns, 6 interceptions in the last
Yeah,
2 games. And I wrote about him a couple weeks ago saying I don't have faith in him as far as the Lions go. So with that, they pumped him up. That's that hype, people. And people in Detroit, I know, a lot of the auto industry left, but y'all still got the Lions, and they want to hype it up, and they want to keep y'all happy with the Lions.
they scrappy, they
you
scrappy,
know.
but
So, and then the Cowboys, that to me, I've said it all season long. He has to win in the playoffs. That's the big question to me. I call those pretty statistically, fantastically magical games
yeah,
where he goes up there and throws. His
yeah,
stat line is amazing, like almost 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, no ints. He's running. I got the picture of him and looking happy, and
I mean, my thing
That's all
with
gonna come to a
with
crack.
Dak, and again, you got to do this. You got to start somewhere. But with Dak, my thing is they really haven't played anybody. At the end of the day, just like Al said, at the end of the day, in the playoffs, you have to either beat the Eagles and the 49ers. Like, that's really all that matters. All these other teams, really, they got Seattle this weekend. They should win that game. They probably going to win. Like, but to me, until you got the Eagles or the 49ers, you're going to win. It's probably going to be a pretty win because you got the better team. But Eagles, 49ers, and we're not going to see that again. Well, we got the Eagles one more time later on in the year,
Right.
and that's going to determine it all. If they lose to the Eagles in Jerry World, it's over with. Over with.
Well, we'll see. I'm sure the Cowboys could lose the rest of their games and they'd still be the best team on the planet, according to some people. I don't know.
Jerry Jones.
I joke to tell you, he sends out that memo each week. Don't say nothing bad about Cowboys. You know? So, but and then of course the other thing they started talking about. Oh, let's interject this right quick because I know Aaron Rodgers supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
He's been
Aaron Rodgers back
Back
in practice today. Back in practice today.
So I can't. I want him to come back. I want him to play the meaningless game and then get injured and be done for his career. That's what. Okay.
Oh, we don't want that. We don't want that. No, you don't want that.
Why not?
Because you can't root bad on somebody.
okay,
Like
all
that.
right,
You don't want to
okay.
put that bad juju out
Okay,
there.
all right. So he comes
He's
back.
changing sports medicine for athletes.
Yeah.
Now you know if you
sports
tell your
magic.
now you know if you tell your ACL preseason week 1, week 2,
Yeah.
hope and dream you might be back for the playoffs.
And a couple other quick notes you mentioned before is that how Dobbs now after that 4 INT game he might not be the starter. So I mentioned we had got that as a starter spot. So they being suspect with my man after one bad game. That's what happens sometimes. And then in Cleveland, my man was telling me they moved Joe Flacco up to QB2, which will essentially make him starter this week if DTR don't clear concussion protocol.
He's concussion protocol as of Wednesday night. So
Right.
I mean, are you gonna trot him out there Thursday, Friday if he gets cleared to go play Sunday? I think we're gonna see Joe try to put together another magical run with the Browns. And that'd be something. Brown Joe against the Ravens in the playoffs. That'd be something to watch.
Speaking about magic, I was thinking about Flacco as I was writing the commentary talking about the magical season. What do you have, like 30 touchdowns and no INTs in the playoffs and Super Bowl?
He had like 8 or 10. I want to say he broke the record.
Not in the playoffs, but not 30. But about
I want to say he broke the record for most touchdowns to interception ratio for a playoff run.
So that was great. I mean, so that's what a quarterback got to do pretty much. But the Browns, they don't have an all-black quarterback room no more. I know that. And I said at the beginning of the season they did. That's how they was able to keep a black backing up a back. We had blacks backing up blacks. Not anymore. White guy said, no, enough of that. Not happening.
So, I'm coming off the couch. As you talked the other way, I'm coming off the couch. And these players coming off the couch had some good success. It's going to be interesting to see what Flacco do Sunday. Because these players off the couch have had some good seasons this year. There's been a few of them coming right off the couch. One of them turned in the ice cream truck, parked it. Got to get to the field. Grabbed his equipment and ran to the field. And he was balling. Some of them balling.
All the high-tech equipment and training facilities and training techniques they have, methods. If you're a football player and that's what your life is, then you should be ready. If you ain't in the league, but you've been in the league, been out of the league, and you still can play. All right, I guess
you always somewhat stay in shape, keep yourself ready for that call. Expecting that call to come.
I guess the other big thing they started talking about this week was the MVP, which I ain't really paid much attention to. I mean, I'm just being honest. But anyway, one of the people they talked about it was they mentioned Dak, Jalen, and some other people, of course. Some other players like McCaffrey. So, but
Brock Purdy.
It's funny though how a lot of them, some shows they weren't talking about him as MVP though.
No.
That's what one show I watched. They talked about 4 or 5 guys. And one of the guys they did not mention. He's like, "Are you not gonna say Purdy?" He's like, "Well, is it no?" He just flat out said no.
I mean, the biggest hurdle for Purdy to overcome is being the last pick in the draft, which I don't see why that's such an obstacle for him to overcome. Because at the end of the day, Brady was 6th round pick, and everybody gave it to him when it was due. But again, Purdy hasn't won in the playoffs. He doesn't have that signature win. That's what he really needs, is that signature win, and this Sunday will be a start to that signature win. Because even this year in the regular season, when the matchups have been like, oh, this is a tough one, you know what I'm saying? Outside of Pittsburgh week one, they just set Pittsburgh on fire that week one.
They did.
You know what I mean?
to
But
me.
outside of that, in some of the big games, Purdy's looked a little rattled. So it's going to be interesting to see how he performs this Sunday.
Oh, and speaking of this game, Hassan Reddick was talking noise.
Oh,
I was trying to post the
they
link
gonna be
to that,
after him.
but you know the website is about black quarterbacks. But I don't know if you didn't see what Hassan Reddick said. I would just find that snippet out there and just go watch it. There's gonna be some heat. There's gonna be some smoke in that game. Trust me, that game's gonna be hard hit. I will say this about the Niners. I've talked to my man Smeeze about this all the time. I think the Niners are one of those exceptionally run well teams, man. They get out there and you gotta have to beat them. There, and like all these good teams can move the ball 5 yards almost every play with the rules. So to me, they're very efficient. So, I don't like to talk about them too much, but they are a very good opponent. And to me, they one of the best teams in the NFC. Period.
To me, in my opinion, this year you got a couple dark horses, but I feel like it's honestly a two-man race. And CJ had it is to me is between Jalen Hurts and CJ Stroud for the MVP. Like, see, Houston Texans had the number one pick or number two pick in the draft last year. Number two pick. So you got a terrible team, historically terribly ran organization. For him to get there with rookies, with young first year head coach, all of these are signs of people thinking 4, 5 wins, maybe 500 on a good season, but he's knocking on the door of actually getting them into the playoffs. They right outside of the playoffs. This weekend game, them in Denver right there is a true test. But with CJ Stroud, in my opinion, if he gets Houston to the playoffs, he has to be the MVP. Like, that's the most valuable player for a season. Even I get what Hurts is doing, I get all of that, but look at the talent and look at the pieces around Hurts and look at what's already been laid down to what Stroud walked into. Again, right. People thinking 3 wins. They superseded 3 wins and now pushing, knocking on the door for the division.
The thing they say about McCaffrey, though, would the 49ers be the same without him?
No, they wouldn't.
So does that make him the most valuable player? In the category, you know what I mean? For that team specifically.
Yeah. But again, I think you take it back to what's been done. Like, at the end of the day, it's tough. First of all, it's tough to overtake a quarterback.
Right. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like what's been done. Like CJ Stroud, like we'll get into his numbers later on today. Impressive game. Like, to me, I feel like if I played on Houston, it's almost, I don't want to necessarily say the Brady effect, but I almost feel like everybody in that Houston locker room feels like they got a chance to win every single game. Even if they down, they feel like they got a chance to come back and win.
We believe
and not
CJ
every team,
is that guy.
Every team has that.
Right.
Not even some of these good quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville get down. It's like, oh, do you really think Jacksonville gonna come back? Like, they doubt. You know what I mean? But in that locker room, Baltimore locker room, San Francisco locker room, Kansas City locker room, Eagles locker room, they feel no matter what, that quarterback has that gusto to bring them back and we can win this game. The other teams, Dak is still 50-50.
So there are some big games coming up this weekend. Some game with the NFL, every game's a big game. Like I told you, every win is special in NFL. Just ask Carolina; they only got one, but it was special. So every game is a big game, but some games are bigger than others. And the one I was watching Colin Cowherd, and my man, his sidekick, he's like he keeps saying on any given Sunday, and Cowherd was like, well, not on this Sunday. He was talking about a particular game. So that's what I'm saying. Whoever came up with that phrase on any given Sunday, I mean, the ball bounces funny. We get it. On any given Sunday, anything in the NFL can happen. But on some Sundays, some teams are going to lose to other teams. It's just like Carolina, probably going to lose this weekend. I didn't put their game down as a big game because they're probably going to lose. But anyway, one of the biggest is the Niners and the Eagles, right? We've been talking about that. I told my man Smeeze before, whoever make the most mistakes in that game, that's how I feel.
But like I said, that's almost any game. What
Right.
happens if no team makes a mistake?
Okay, good point. If no team make a mistake, I would take the
That's third down
Eagles.
conversion.
I don't even know who's in the the
I
Niners.
don't know. Probably the Eagles
See, we
because
ain't
they
got
got the
stat people like that,
yeah.
but I'll go with the Eagles and Jalen because they're at home right now.
They should be the
I would go
favorite.
with Jalen and the
They
Eagles.
should be the
If
favorite.
with all things being equal, they all play under the same weather conditions, no mistakes, no turnovers, no penalties, to the point where it's keeping you from scoring,
Yeah,
or you got
drive killer.
right drive killer penalties. So I got the Eagles. So
I like the Eagles in that game too.
just because they're at home. And then the Seahawks, Cowboys. I mean, the Seahawks is fighting, trying to. I think they're out of the playoff contention at this point, trying to get back in. Cowboys off a big win. They should win that game. But then Gino, he's worked magic before on the road, so we'll see.
That magic ran out.
That magic ran out.
Oh,
Man, they got hope, man. The seafood market down there in Seattle, they keeping hope alive, man.
Cardinals still got hope for that #1 pick too.
They do.
Carolina win the game.
They do. And then the Lions and the Saints. To me, this is the most between me and him. This is the most interesting game
You
because
just threw that in there to get on me with the Saints pick. That's what it was. That is not an interesting game at all. The Saints are atrocious to watch. Atrocious coaching, atrocious quarterback play, atrocious defense. They lost to Atlanta last week. Atlanta trying to lose.
Desmond Ritter. Oh my God, he is. Oh, that
They went back to Ritter.
right.
They said, "Oh, wait a minute. Heineken gives us too big of a chance to win. Go back to Ritter," and they still get the win
He was
against
trying
the
to
Saints.
get that game away. Oh my goodness. Anyway, Cardinals at the Steelers. I told you, Kyler Murray, we local here in Phoenix area.
Yeah.
And every time I watched. I don't hardly ever watch the news and sports, but the dude hypes the Cardinals. Just like I say, whatever your local market is, if you got a football team, they're hyping that team. This is the week.
Yeah.
You know.
They got heard. Hey, they went out. They got a shot.
This is the week. Dolphins and the Commanders. I'm hoping it's bad weather in DC, in the capital. I want to see how the Dolphins play. I'm hoping the weather bad. You think they're gonna lose, right?
If the weather bad, I take the Commanders.
Sam Howell is lighting up the
Sam
league.
Howell.
That's the quarterback.
He like number 2, number 3 in
No more.
fantasy. Fantasy ain't real, but he's number 2 or number 3 quarterback in fantasy football.
He's leading
I'm
the
just saying.
league. I checked those stats.
No one drafted him. Everybody picked him up in free agency. Don't nobody say I drafted him. No, you picked him up in free agency after them couple of weeks, and it probably took your quarterback to be on the bottom. And your starting quarterback has been on the bench ever since.
Check it out. I got into an argument with this woman before the season started about Sam Howell. And I told her, I said, your quarterback is the 4th worst quarterback in the division.
No, third.
Oh.
Daniel Jones set
right.
new records.
I know
He set new records this season.
Okay, at this point, right, I will give him that.
Yeah.
Right, Daniel Jones. But before the season, it was projected.
Yeah,
he
was the 4th.
And so I feel for that woman, whoever she was on Twitter, I'm sure she's happy. She's like, Sam Howell will be okay. I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. But he's been right as far as passing yardage. So anyway.
Okay, for the last Turkey Bowl they played, not real football.
One of the other big games, Broncos at Texas. We talked up C.J. Stroud. We love him as a rookie. And the wily vet, Russell, coming into town. Russell done won the last 2 or 3 games, and he's ready. He's coming into Houston with that big horse on his chest and be like, I'm going to show C.J. what's going on for real. And they're going to lose.
Another bold prediction here. The winner of that game, I feel like, definitely makes it to the playoffs. The winner of that game. And then the one game that Al didn't list that I feel it's important in a sense of it's kind of the same thing with Broncos and Texans. We have the Colts and Titans. Titans out of it, it's over with for them. Season over. But to me, it's more of a big game for the Colts more than a big game in general. Again, same kind of concept. If the Colts win that game, I feel like they might sneak in and get a playoff spot. Both of those teams are in the playoffs right now. Broncos and the Colts are in the playoffs. Or no, not the Broncos. I think the Broncos right outside, kind of with the Texans. But the Colts have that last spot. If they lose, winner Broncos Texans jump in. But I feel like Broncos Texans winner And if the Colts pull out the win, both those teams will take your last two spots in the playoffs for the
Nice.
AFC.
Just a quick thing about that division. When Anthony Richardson comes back next year, they talk about Trevor Lawrence and C.J. Stroud having a battle. They forgot about Anthony Richardson. He gonna be in that mix too.
He was.
I'm
He was
just,
playing a good
I'm
season
just
before he
saying.
got hurt.
So it ain't gonna be no duet. It's gonna be a little trifecta. It's gonna be a trio. So but anyway, those are some of the games we looking at with the black quarterbacks we playing. So you want to get to your
Breaking
what
down
was it, AFC
the
West
last
preview?
weekend,
Yeah.
first one I'm gonna start at is on man CJ Stroud. I love me some CJ Stroud. Go Bucks, even though we lost Saturday. We still gonna backdoor into that playoff. We gonna get in there somehow, some way. OSU all day. OHIO. But CJ Stroud, 26 for 36. I was telling Al as I'm going over the stat line, it's almost like it's a mirror for CJ Stroud every single week. His stat line is almost the same every single week, and it's a great stat line. 36, 26 for 36, 304 yards, 8.4 yards per pass. And as I said early in the season, you'll see the trend with the yards per pass. Most of your winning quarterbacks have a high yards per pass. Losers generally tend to have a low yards per pass. Two touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked 4 times for 43 yards, but he did rush 6 times for 47 yards with a touchdown. Houston scored 21 points. CJ Stroud was on the back end of all three of those touchdowns. The one key thing out of that is CJ Stroud did the best he could do, took him down the field, got him in position for a game time field goal, couldn't get it. The key to it is those 4 key series. First series starting out, got a punt. Last series before the half, missed the field goal. Key, missed the field goal right before half. Right out of halftime, gave him that touchdown, which gave the momentum. And then last drive of the game, another missed field goal. They lose by 3 points, 2 missed field goals, both of them makeable field goals. The next game we had Russ against Cleveland. This stat line wasn't going to be pretty. Thing with Cleveland, you just want to get out of that game with a win. If you can get out of that game with a win, that defense is fire. Yeah, it's going to be an ugly game because that defense is going to make it ugly. But Russ, 13 for 22, 134 yards. Even as low as all of that is, he still has 6.1 yards per catch. Had 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He did have 2 fumbles, though. One recovered, one they did end up losing. He had 11 rushes for 34 yards. So he wasn't, Russ, one thing is he wasn't taking chances trying to throw downfield. If it wasn't there, he's out of there, as you can see with the 11 rushes, because he ain't getting a design run. You know what I mean? This is all pass call, nothing there. Let me get up out of there. Then we had Mahomes and that receiving court. Like I was saying earlier, Rice, they might have found something there where Rashee Rice got one receiver, Kelsey, strong running game, but Mahomes ended up 27 for 34, 298, 8.8 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, sacked 1 time, 5 carries for 9 yards. The biggest thing to take away, 2 takeaways for this, is Rashee Rice could be the go-to receiver there for Kansas City, which could change a lot of things with Kansas City in the way they move the ball. And then secondly, at one point, Kansas City was down 14-0 and came storming back with the win, which is key. Then we had Kyler Murray against the Rams, 27 for 45. Why are we throwing 45 times with no receivers? Y'all probably got the second worst receiver. Carolina up there too, but y'all in the top 3 with Kansas City for worst receiving course. But he was 27 for 45, 256, averaged 5.7 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He did have 1 rush for 2 yards, which did result in a touchdown too. So 2 touchdowns on the day. That Cardinals offense needs more. Just a work in progress there. We'll see what they do as the year closes out. And then we had the Cleveland duo of quarterbacks with DTR, PJ Walker. I mean, they combined for 20 for 42, 180 yards, about 4 yards, 1 touchdown. Not really a whole lot going on. PJ Walker sacked 4 times. Like, it was just really they can't get anything going. Can't get anything going there. So Cleveland, I think their best shot at trying to salvage this season is rolling with Joe Flacco. I think DTR, he's shown enough. Give him more time in training camp off season, get him ready. But as far as that defense and the position they're in right now in today's football, I think Joe Flacco honestly gives them the best chance of trying to salvage this into a great season.
Well, there you go, people.
What about the NFC
That
there,
was some
Al?
expert analysis, yo. You know, I'm more of a fan. I'm just gonna give y'all the fan stuff over here, all the fun stuff. Let's start with the losers, okay? In the NFC, there was Dobbs. Dobbs lost, unfortunately. You know, I love the story. You know what I'm saying? How he started out the season, but traded and now traded again, and just had that bad game, man. Four
Just
INTs.
then, he got traded again.
Yeah, and then they talking about possibly benching him. And, you know, some people, oh, they don't do that to a black guy. I mean, you know, maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But you know, you can't. All of them wasn't his fault, but he had a bad game. So I make fun of the losers. So he not a loser. We know that.
I
But he
mean,
lost that game.
on a side note, the one thing is how these coaches handle these situations, these quarterback situations. Salon with the Jets, you know, when you have these injuries and things like that. Because my thing is with Dobbs, it's like, oh, let's see if this young quarterback can do it. But you in the mix of things. Dobbs, I feel like, gives you the best chance
Right.
to make a push to do something. So it's like these a lot of these choices and who they going, especially when you in the fight.
Right.
You
Same
you
with the
in the
proven
fight.
commodity, more so.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I hope Dobbs continues to start because I wrote about him that we got 15 black quarterbacks starting. We started the season with 15. A few things have shifted and changed. Obviously, Anthony Richardson going down for the season. Desmond Ritter lost the spot. He got it back. Justin Fields was hurt for a couple games, and so on with some of the changes. But
Yeah.
I think we still have 15 started as of last week. Who knows? Like I said, if a man gets benched. So, but anyway, Justin Love, one of my favorite games. Like I said, he went into the Lions' den and he did beat them. He had a pretty good stat line, 268 yards. That average, my man Smeeze talks about, 8.4 yards per pass, 3 touchdowns, no INTs, and no sacks. That's as clean as it can get.
Yeah.
The QBR was 90.5 and the rating 125.5. So I guess they'll be looking at those QBR and ratings, you know, when they be ranking quarterbacks and all that. But to me, at the end of the day, I'll talk about Lamar Jackson stats in a moment. But if you at this time in the season, oops, sorry about that. At this time in the season, if you walk on the field with the W, you want it to be clean and as best as possible. But if it's a little ugly, mistake here and there, you okay. You know what I'm saying?
As
So
long as you get the dub,
right,
ask Pittsburgh.
right. As long as you get
Ask
that done.
Pittsburgh.
Right. So next, Dak, you know, one of those I call it fantastical, magical, statistical games where he had 331 yards. His average was 10.3, 4 touchdowns, 0 INTs, 0 sacks. But here, so he had more yards, almost more everything than Jordan Love. But his QBR was only 87.0, but his rating was 142.1. So once again, it's that QBR. One of our favorite sons, Desmond Ritter. Man, I've watched some of his press conferences after games. He was 168, averaged 8 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. He wasn't sacked, but he had a QBR of 35.5 and a rating of 63.3. And it's like the Falcons do be trying to give the game away. It's like, hey, we don't want it. You take it, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. That's why that Falcons the Saints game. Oh my goodness, they throw. It was like, okay, there's this thing called offensive football. It's like the Bears and the Vikings Monday night, and I made it. It's like it's called offensive football. Move the ball down the field for a touchdown.
Yeah.
They just put a kink in the offensive efficiency that we want to see with football, people. So, Jalen Hurts. Speaking of efficiency. That's a new word. Offense.
Offensive.
Yeah, we just created new words around here, people.
There we go.
Okay, so
Take it to the
Jalen,
bank.
Jalen and the Eagles Monday. Was it Monday night?
Sunday night.
Sunday night. Wherever they beat Buffalo. Time's moving fast.
That was a Sunday night game.
Tomorrow's Thursday. We got Seattle and the Cowboys. But anyway, Josh Allen outperformed him statistically, right?
Yeah.
Josh was balling out, they said.
Yeah.
And I rewatched
He had a
that
great
game. He
game.
was. But Jalen delivered at the end. I mean, just quickly, he had 200 yards passing, 6.5 average, 3 TDs, 1 INT. He was sacked 2 times for 7 yards. His QBR was 54.2, rating 96.2. I didn't get his rushing, but his most important rush came when he scored the touchdown in overtime to win the game.
He had a lot of big rushes.
He did. And so, should the ball Buffalo coach have tried to use those last 20 seconds. Some people getting on him about he just figured we're going overtime, take our chance.
I mean,
The fact that Patrick Mahomes
again,
beat y'all with 13
I
seconds.
feel like personnel makes differences. The fact that Josh Allen is prone to fumble or an interception, I probably would have won in overtime.
So, but
Me
that,
personally, because
right.
what you don't want to have is an interception. They come out, get a quick play, field goal, game over with. Like,
So,
you know what I mean?
right. To me, with Stephon Diggs, and if you believe that much in your quarterback, then he must don't believe because we talked about offenses can get 5, 7 yards real easy on almost any given play. So
But they needed probably
they
45
they did
yards.
they did they
And
needed
what
some
did they have,
yards.
like 20 seconds? Or,
Yeah, they
yeah,
did. They
like
needed some yards,
no
but
timeout.
take the chance though. So he didn't take it. But anyway, some people's getting on about that. You know, and look, the thing with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles is they win, and we're gonna see what happens this weekend with the Niners. And as the season goes on, in the last month, last 6 games, but we know who has what. It's not about who's good. It's about them being efficient and performing each week. So,
100%.
and then uh Lamar, as we talked about, we love Lamar around here. He didn't have his greatest game against the LA Chargers out there in sunny LA.
That was probably one of his worst games of the season.
It was 177 yards, very low average, 5.5. That's lowest for him. 1 TD, 0 INTs. He didn't turn it over. He was sacked 2 times for 13 yards. I'm sure he had a few rushes in there. And he had a QBR of 35.8.
Fitting.
Yeah, and a rating of 82.4. But they won. They won the game. And the only knock that they had this week, watching some of the sports shows, is like, well, he didn't do much, and it was the defense. I'm like, okay, so if he don't play well, then it's the defense. And I'm
like I was telling you before, I think that the issue is the Chargers have one of the worst defenses in football, specifically one of the worst pass defenses in football. And we weren't able to exploit that. And a lot of it wasn't that the receivers were open. There was a lot of missed throws and just missed throws and bad throws by Lamar. Like it wasn't Lamar's greatest game, but at the end of the day, when you can still get that win and not play well, that speaks to the team totality. But it wasn't a great day for Lamar. But
and the things you're talking about, the overthrows, the missed passes, that'll bite you in the ass in the playoffs because you gotta connect, and you only gonna get so many opportunities. That's why early on I was looking at the possessions. They get like 11 average between 9 and 11, 5 or 6 in the first half, 4 or 6 in the second half, whatever the case. And they need to capitalize. He's talked about coming out in the second half, scoring on your first possession, and other things of that nature. So you got to do those things. Finally, this was Monday night's game. Yeah. Justin Fields and, and Joshua Dobbs. That game was hard to watch.
it was tough.
217 yards passing, 5.9 average, no touchdowns, no INTs. He was sacked 3 times for 18 yards. His QBR was 41.9. His rating was 87.3. And I'm sure he had a couple of dashes there too, running with his feet. So the thing to me with Justin Fields is I just want him to play somewhere else. I know people are saying, well, he's had enough time in Chicago, but come on, man. They give all these other quarterbacks all these other opportunities. So if it don't work out in Chicago, go somewhere else and see what happens at that point. And I always jokingly say, people, as long as Blaine Gabbert is in the league, all these black quarterbacks that we talk about belong in the league. Okay? And even some on the bench. Okay, I'm gonna get to the bench players eventually because if any one of these teams top quarterback get hurt, then we'll see how they'll compete if the backup got to come in. And the only backup I know off the top of my head, I keep making fun of him, is Blaine Gabbert in Kansas City. Kansas City season would be over if something were to happen to Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so Blaine Gabbert, people. But anyway, that's my guy I make fun of is Blaine Gabbert. So as long as Blaine Gabbert is in the league, all these suspect quarterbacks, black, white, belong in the league. And once Blaine Gabbert go, all the other guys got to go too.
Kind of piggyback on that. My thing is just food for thought. I'll speed it up. Just hopefully y'all drop. I'm gonna leave something to drop in the comments. My man Zach Wilson. Would you rather have Zach Wilson, RG3, or Kaepernick? They're not even in the league, but as you saying, with Blaine Gabbert and these quarterbacks that are out there, how RG3 and Colin Kaepernick don't got a job? How do they not have a job?
I didn't want to go down that road, bro. I mean, RG3, I think he like the studio, right? Wearing
Yeah,
his fancy suits and his
he could do what Zach
Right.
Wilson doing.
garbage.
Exactly. Danny DeVito's son. DeVito for the Giants. Like what are we doing? Like, how do you put these teams, these quarterbacks, and these guys don't got a shot and they want them to play and they say, I'll come, I just want to compete. Cap said, put me on the practice squad. I just
Right.
give me a shot, do what it do. And I get Cap probably a bigger distraction, but RG3 probably more to focus on. I'm pretty sure RG3 can play as well as Danny DeVito's son for the Giants. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's Danny DeVito's son, but DeVito,
Right.
funny, humorous.
Right. But definitely, Zach Wilson. I mean, they was hyping that. Oh, I mean, that's what was driving me crazy in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, after Aaron Rodgers got hurt, and then they hyping that shit like, come on, man, this young man can't play. Then they got mad at Ronnie Harrison for calling him garbage. I mean, I guess he's since said on national TV, he's just not as good as everybody else. Okay.
No.
I mean, that's cool. I mean, all right.
Signing off with him. As he's now resorted to the bench. And the backup quarterback is even worse. Even worse. Even worse. But nobody's beaten Blaine Gabbert's 3 interceptions in his half a quarter of play. For the Chiefs that time. Nobody's
that
beaten
this
that.
season?
That was the season
Yeah.
for the Chiefs. Came in 3 interceptions. Like 6 pass
Okay.
attempts, 3 interceptions.
So, what do you think the backup sits on the bench and thinks about? I mean, if you know, do they be involved in the game? Or
I mean, they kind of listening for the call, like, hey, this the call, this what it is. Kind of when you come off to the side, hey, we kind of saw this, we kind of so a little bit of, but it's just like all the other guys that you see on the sideline. Only 10 of them people really getting checks, but you see 100 people with no uniform up and down that sideline. Some of them just volunteers, some of them like that's kind of like the backup quarterback. You just getting a check though, but you're along the lines of the volunteer, just
hey,
giving information, things you see. Rah rah, keep everybody hyped up.
they become the most important person because that started
As soon as that injury happened, though,
There you
as soon as
go.
that injury happened, you got to have a good backup.
All right, people, that's about it for this edition. Black Quarterback Forum. We love y'all, our black quarterbacks. Hope they do well. We'll get at you next week.
All righty.
Peace.